Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst, great Malabite, Emmanuel Efeni.
Good morning, Ruben. Yes.
Good to see you.
Good morning, Victoria Tundu MK Abiola.
Good morning, Mr.
Yes,
Efeni.
good morning, Rufai. Yes.
Morning,
Rufai. Yes, Ruben, I never knew that your seat can be very hot also. Yes, let's start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story. I have not resigned and won't resign. Says he's elected for 4-year term. Atiku, Okowa, Sambo, Fintiri, others receive 160,000 defectors from APC. Presidential hopeful says his mission in politics is to serve the people. Wike berates party elders for allegedly ganging up against him. I think he's referring to elders in Rivers State, not nationwide, for clarity. Wike berates party elders for allegedly ganging up against him. PDP alleges 20 local government areas in Katsina not secure for election. Yes. Other papers are also reporting the PDP story. Yes, the Vanguard newspaper. PDP, Atiku holds a rally in Yola. Wike's allies meet in Port Harcourt. Odili's birthday overshadows anticipated meeting. I have not resigned. No plan to do so, says Ayo. Oyinlola tipped to be Atiku's campaign DG. Giving Wike's chairmanship slot will solve crisis. Senator Okon, Wike won't leave PDP. Is a principled politician. Dele Momodu, yes, Dele Momodu, one of the presidential aspirants of the PDP, who never made it through. Now, the Sun newspaper, the Daily Sun newspaper, Ayu calls Wike's bluff, says he won't resign, denies submitting resignation letter to David Mark. Rivers Governor berates traitors, accuse some elders of gang up. Yes, it's good to hear that indeed there's no letter with Senator David Mark, because I was saying if there was such a letter somewhere, then perhaps it's time to bring out that letter. But how you said he never submitted any, and I hope none was written on his behalf, because such a letter has to carry his signature. Well, as for Wike and the Atiku, a lot to talk about, but both parties know, because Wike insists he's in the PDP for good. So if you're in the PDP for good and Atiku wants to win the presidency, both men must sit down and talk so that the party can move forward. Whether they're doing so through their intermediaries or representatives, it doesn't really matter. But a resolution has to be found. But for Wike, if you are talking of inclusiveness, for us to trust you, you have to put something on the table. Otherwise, we cannot trust your words on inclusivity. I think that is fair enough for Wike, but where will he draw the line that, look, it's time to let go? You don't stay on one position and don't move. When you are negotiating, it means you are ready to give and you are ready to concede as well. So that's for that. Now, the Guardian newspaper, 19.6% inflation. More people become poor, experts warn. Defies interest rate hike, rattles analysts. Surges to 19.6%, highest since 2005. Figures reflection of more scary future. Okay. Civil servants most hit, purchasing power very weak. Suspend telecoms, beverage tax, says Waleke. Rain in 19.7 trillion naira ways and means loan to federal government. Yes, rein in 19.7 trillion ways and means loans to government. Galloping inflation, recipe for recession, higher unemployment, economists insist. Well, of course, the Daily Trust also reporting this story. Energy, food prices push inflation to 17 years high. Now, well, Ruben, don't make an excuse for these bachelors. They cannot use this inflation as an excuse not to get married. The ladies also understand. So I'm advising all bachelors. The ladies, they understand that things are difficult. They are ready to also make concessions.
I couldn't agree more.
So they shouldn't use inflation as an excuse
Bachelors?
not to marry.
Are you the ladies, Mr. Efe?
No, I'm making case for the ladies.
Are you the ladies?
They make
Let
concessions.
the ladies make a case for themselves.
Tundu has confirmed what I'm saying, so I'm not talking strange things. So
Tundu is boss lady.
Instead of 5-star restaurants.
Tundu is not a standard.
Amala joint will be
this
better alternative.
inflation is not an excuse for
Mr. Efe.
yes.
Tundu is not a standard for the lady. Tundu is boss lady. Otolaye.
Yes.
Her sex is different. The
No,
ladies.
but she says Amala joint for
It's
a date.
equally
It's quite
romantic. It's
Yeah.
about the
Tundu,
company.
you will follow me to Amala dates.
Well, no.
Eh?
But other
Let me
nights.
take you to Amala joint.
Look, anyway, let's come back to the main issue, inflation.
Let's practicalize it.
Let's come back to the main issue, inflation. I'm only that, Ruben, that was a subtext.
Yes.
A subtext that people should not use that as inflation as an excuse not to get married. But inflation is real, it's biting hard, and Ruben calls that the pandemic of the empty pocket, although I usually exclude him from that pandemic now. But it is real. Nigerians are having a hard time. You go to the market. The other day, I wanted to eat something they call ukudu. Yes,
yeah.
I know you remember it.
Oh, could have loved
On a
it.
Sunday, and we were looking for yam all over town. And when we found one somewhere,
Expensive.
it was so expensive.
Yam is expensive.
Well, but I had to buy one because that delicacy, when you want it, you just go for it. You know, but it's real. It's real. Inflation and the hardship in the land. Those who are on that minimum wage, how do they survive, Ruben? 30,000 minimum wage, overtaken by devaluation of the naira, and now inflation skyrocketing.
And many of these state governments do not even pay that
They
minimum
don't.
wage. They would rather go and donate it to pastors.
15 states are yet to pay that minimum wage. And this is the condition of our economy now. Well, President Buhari, this is where you are living the economy. I hope something will happen before 2029. Okay, now let's just look at the foreign newspapers quickly. Now, the Times of London, over 50 is to be called for new COVID jab in weeks. Yes, UK approves updated vaccine for Omicron. Yes, all over 50s are likely to be offered an updated coronavirus vaccine in a booster campaign due to begin within a month. Yes, this jab, this new updated version of the vaccine directly targets the Omicron strain of the coronavirus, and officials are confident of having at least millions of doses of the next generation vaccine ready for autumn. So by the time this is done, half of the population in the UK are being urged to have a fourth vaccine, while of course the New York Times is reporting Georgia inquiry on voting fraud targets Giuliani. Yes, Trump ally has been notified. He is set to testify about effort to keep former president in power. Yes, it's going to get to that effort because clearly, if it were in the third world, that was an attempt to rig the election. But I don't see them using that term in the US. There was an attempt to rig the election. So, Ruben, Rufai, and Tundu.
Well, I think the big story is about inflation.
Yes.
Right? But the question, which we raised earlier on, which we can also reiterate, is what is anybody doing about it? It's not enough for us to lament that, okay, this will lead to poverty there is a raging pandemic of empty pockets. I cited earlier on the example of what is going on in Sierra Leone, where last week the people trooped to the streets spontaneously. It wasn't election season. People just said, look, enough is enough. This hardship is too much. At the end of the day, 20 persons died. Look at the way we are now. We're preparing for an election. Can Nigeria afford, that kind of situation, whereby out of, deprivation, the people begin to protest? And that is why the major task ahead of us is to make this economy productive. I read a comment, where someone was saying, oh, we blame the central bank all the time. And the person said, look, the business of the central bank is monetary policy. What are we also doing on the fiscal side? What are we doing in terms of leadership? What are we doing in terms of economic management? You have an economic advisory council whose effect nobody can pinpoint and say these people, this collection of brilliant economists, whether or not they've been able to make any difference. So,
are you sure anybody is listening to them?
Well, I don't know about that. Then let them
because
resign.
You can give advice.
If nobody is listening to
you
them.
You can give advice.
They have a
if
choice. If
your principal don't take your advice or your recommendations.
No, they can step down and say, nobody is listening to us. It's not enough to just carry title all over the place and say you are economic expert, you are advising government. And nobody is seeing any effect. So, this is part of the problem we have. And that's why we say the man whoever is going to be next president of Nigeria has serious business. So they should just focus on serious issues instead of all this monkeying around that people are doing, So I think we should keep repeating this so that we'll know that we're in dire straits.
Yes,
19.6% inflation. And that's even artificial. Yeah. What they are measuring is just the former one that they can put their fingers on. It's worse than that. Thank you, Emmanuel Efed.